Coming up next, we all know that a true fusion of AI and creativity will only happen in an advertising context when the client, its agency partner, and its agency partner are on board and on the same page. Always important. So our next panel tackles this trifecta: agencies, clients, and AI today. So please welcome to the stage Paul Brienza. He's the Chief Technology Officer at Laughlin Constable. Ricky Bacon, the Group Technology Director at Critical Mass. And Tracy Young-Lincoln, Moxie's EVP of Intelligence, Data, and Technology. Moderating this discussion is Marc Gowland, the EVP and Executive Technology Director here at Deutsc. So let's welcome everybody to the stage.
Hi, my name's Ricky. Can everybody hear me? Yeah, we're good. Slide? Nope. Here we go. Okay, so one of our clients is Marriott, a large travel and hospitality industry. This takes a little delay. Brand, and they brought us a challenge. They said, how can we create an experience that's inclusive, one, that's easy to use, and that's incredibly immersive? How can we improve our in-room experience for our guests? So we sat around and we thought about it, and what I like about what I've heard on these panels so far is that a lot of the stuff that I've seen with voice interfaces and natural language interfaces are exactly what we're hearing right now. When my oldest son was 3 years old, that's when we first got an Echo and we put it in our kitchen. And he was really frustrated at first because he saw me and my wife using it every day, but he couldn't quite use it. Over the next 6 months, it got smarter. And his diction, his enunciation, really didn't get a whole lot better from like 3 to 3.5, but he was able to use the Echo. So a typical Saturday morning, I would be cooking breakfast, listening to some jazz, and Max would come running out as he woke up and smelled the bacon cooking, and he would say, "Dad, you always listen to that. Alexa, play Walk Off the Earth." And so that traditional backseat fight of like who gets to control the radio in the car has now entered our life. So these interfaces are actually a family thing. So when we sat down and we saw this challenge, the thing that we didn't do was think about, hey, AI, how do we apply AI? It was, how do we actually embrace these three things? And a natural language interface is something that, that was just a no-brainer. So the first thing that we figured out that was really, really difficult was the name. That golden utterance. How do you do something that is on brand, maybe, but it actually works really well? What we first came out with was the Mira in-room assistant, Marriott in-room assistants, Mira. The problem with that is it had about a 60% success rate, which is a bad experience. We went back and we tried half a dozen other names, but we eventually came up with Bellhop. So Bellhop, easy to pronounce, very easy for a voice assistant to actually utilize. So I'm going to show you a little bit of a video of the prototype that we put together. Won't play the whole thing because it's kind of long, but this will give you an idea of what that in-room experience feels like.
Hello, Bellhop is your voice-activated in-room assistant. You can ask questions, make service requests, get information, and more. To start, say Bellhop, tell me about this service. Or to end, say Bellhop, stop. Exiting to home screen. To start a new conversation, say open Bellhop.
Bellhop, I need a toothbrush.
Sure, your dental kit is on the way.
Bellhop, tell me about the restaurant.
The Stoke Charlotte at Marriott City Center is open today until 12 a.m. You can say, show today's menu, give me directions, or get a table.
Get a table?
How many guests, and at what time? For example, 4 people at 12 p.m.
2 people, 8 p.m.
Great, 2 people at 8 p.m. To go ahead, sit.
So, a couple things. Voice is hard. When I saw our ACD, our copywriter, one of our creative technologists, and an art director sitting in a room and they were trying to crack this thing, they were designing it for a screen. And you can't do that. This is, as somebody else said earlier on a panel, a voice interface first. What we did discover was a big pain point with voice interfaces is onboarding is very hard. So you have a screen in every room that you go to when you go to a hotel. So what we did is we actually tied the voice interface to the screen. It's usable if you can't see, if you can't use the actual screen, but it provides another layer that's actually much more easy to use than trying to do this stuff by going on your computer and doing these other things. It's just inherent with the environment around you. The other thing is that, again, don't start with a technology in mind. Always think about what is best going to support the experience that your client wants, that your users want, that you need to provide. And the last thing is make it inclusive. There's going to be a lunch workshop later here that's going to go into a lot of this. But one of the big things that we heard from our client, our senior client, was how do we make this accessible? How do we make this work for other people? And doing user research, one thing that we actually found was that there are people with mobility issues, that they have to travel with a companion because if they don't and they fall down, then they can't actually get to a phone to get help. They may not have their cell phone on them. But with this, and we didn't show it here, but you can actually ask the room service to notify 911, notify the front desk that you're in trouble. But think about how that makes all of these really immersive experiences much more inclusive for the largest number of people. So now I will pass it off to Paul.
Thanks, Ricky. Oh. So I'm Paul Brienza, Chief Technology Officer at Laughlin Constable. We're a Midwest-based agency. There we go. And I'm going to talk through our take on AI. And really what it is it's how we've taken a 40-year-old advertising agency and really transformed it into a very innovative shop. Quick agency slides. The key thing here is 40 years old. In-house branches, the one I want to talk about is going to be LC Labs. That's what really drove the transformation of our agency. But the other piece of it is really creating a place where people want to come to work and really enjoy their colleagues, their clients, and everything that just goes on in an agency. We position ourselves as taking brands from now to next, but frankly, before we could really take brands from now to next, we had to take ourselves to next. And we had to break down a lot of the silos, a lot of the walls, that exist in an agency to say, look, how are we going to build things differently for our clients? How are we going to make things better for the customers that are going to be using them? And so we really thought deep about that, and we created this thing called Labs. And everybody's talking about Labs. Everybody's saying, what can Labs do? And for us, it was really two things. One is what can Labs do internally? So we thought about ourselves, and we thought about how can we get people when a client comes to them and says, hey, I have this problem. We wanted to get people to think about it differently. And really, it touched upon all of those things there. But the other side of it is, look, it's also about making products that our customers want and that people can really engage with. And it just changed how the groups would come together and think about ideas. We built more collaborative teams, more self-forming teams. And those teams would come together with ideas that really almost changed how we would create products for our clients. One of those examples, this is a little case study video. Winston talked about it, I believe, about how you need to have a case study to really sell stuff. And one of the things that came out of our innovation lab was a client, Sears Auto, came to us and said, look, we're having problems with people, with searching for tires. Tires right now, when you go there for a replacement, it's make, model, year. We wanted to really shift it and think about it from a consumer's perspective. So here's a quick video on what we did.
When Sears Auto Center asked us to help reimagine the way online customers found their car tires, we realized we needed to find a way to radically transform the process. The landscape was overrun with so much information people didn't need, and so little information they actually wanted. So we looked at how people's lives would dictate the kind of tires they'd need. For instance, a soccer mom concerned with safety is looking for different tires than the off-roading single guy concerned with tread. We needed a direct line between a floor associate and the digital consumer. How could we best do that? Enter artificial intelligence and the IBM Watson platform. Consumers were now able to answer the fundamental question of, when it comes to tires, what's most important to you, in a matter of seconds. We quickly saw positive results. Consumer engagement jumped, conversion rates did too, and we saw an uptick in average time spent on Sears' website. At the end of the day, we proved that using artificial intelligence while being customer-centric can really change the world, even when it comes to helping people find exactly the kind of tires they need.
So with that case study, and what we learned from it is you really need to create this environment where people want to participate and really engage in coming up with these experiences and using technology in the right way. We do a lot with workshops with our clients. We really want to get in and really understand the problem they want to solve. From there, walk it back to say, okay, how can technology solve that problem? And sometimes technology can't. Sometimes you have to look at a different approach. But it's really the workshops where you really start to dive deep and really try to get the insights from your clients. The other thing is just prototyping. You have to have this a culture. You have to create a culture where it's okay to fail. We often celebrate those failures because it's the people that are failing are the ones that are actually trying the hardest to come up with a different approach, a different way of thinking. So really celebrate those failures. And then the other thing is just have fun. I mean, this is such a great time to be in this industry where you can try new technologies, and new technologies can really invigorate not only your teams in your agencies, but also your clients and how they think of you and the value that you bring to them.
Great. Hi. Hi. Thank you. Now I feel loved and self-affirmation and a little at ease. So I'm Tracy Young-Lincoln, and I'm with Moxie. We're an agency in Atlanta. And how many people here actually work for an agency? Raise your hand. Okay, so I ain't got a case study because I couldn't get my client to say yes. You laugh, you know my pain. And without a case study, how do you sell stuff, right? Who has to go into a pitch in a week and say that they've done 10 AI projects? I actually have done a lot of AI projects, and so my case study is about us, me, Moxie, and how we sell AI, sell ourselves in a space where everybody's really scared that the robots are coming and taking all of our jobs and putting us all out of business, right? So, just a quick thing. Who am I? Moxie. You probably never heard of us, but we're a little agency down in Atlanta. Yes, we are. We're 400 strong in the South. I hope Amazon comes down there. Actually, I don't. My salaries are going to go skyrocketing. We're headquartered there. We have offices in New York, a few people here in LA, and another office in Pittsburgh. But part of Zenith, part of Publicis. Okay? And I think we all, and I've heard other people say versions of this, and my friends on the stage as well. At Moxie, we believe we are here to help our clients move forward. We are marketing that moves, and we're here to help them get the future today. All of those things. It's where art and science collides, innovation happens, progress ensues. The future begins. So I want to talk a little bit about how we're doing this stuff that makes us a little different and how we're selling AI to the world. And it's equal part art and science, it's knowledge, it's technical enablement, it's customer experiences, but it's brand chemistry, right? You can't forget about the brand, the creative platforms, and the storytelling. And I think we've all said flavors of this, and I heard others on the panels today to say the same. And at Moxie, there are three groups that kind of come together that are really driving this kind of work. And the way we think about doing this work, I think probably sets us a little bit apart from others, but probably of a little like each other in a way as well. We're all thinking the same thing, which is intelligence is about how we apply knowledge. And in our group, intelligence is more than just analysts. I think the two panels ago, or two speakers ago, it can't be just data geeks that are coding and creating algorithms all by themselves, right? They're going to have a bias, right? We're human, we have biases. And so what we've done in our intelligence practice is lean in and bring in behavioral science. We need to understand humans if we can. I don't know, we're really complicated creatures. We make really weird decisions. We're we're creatures of habit, but yet we don't do the habits we probably should, because if we were rational, we would eat salad every day. We would save all our money for retirement, right? We do all those things. I don't know about you, I eat French fries for lunch. That's because I had a salad earlier, and so I post-rationalized that I was allowed to have the French fries, and it's all very complicated. But we need to know these things, right? We need to know these things because this is how AI is going to evolve. Decision science is what we talk about from our data science practice. It's not just about data. It's how do we make better decisions through understanding the data. And then, of course, you got to have some geeks in the house that do all the math, and that's the analytics. But we also have a data cognition team, and they are activating identity, because if the next thing is understanding how we behave and how to use data, it's how do we understand the identity? We talked about voice is really freaking hard. We said it last night. We were all going to say it like 2 or 3 times during this thing, so everybody kind of got it. Voice is really hard. And think about how we start identifying voice, replicating voice. That is all the things that this team is really leaning in on, and how do we do that? And then for us, and others have said, architecture is all about enabling the experience, surrounding ourselves in the experience of AI, and it not just be about robots walking the earth, but that's still cool too. So we have these teams that come together to do this. And that really brings forward a modern world, a modern relationship with artificial intelligence. But what we found is just talking about that didn't sell it. Clients were still really, really scared about it. They weren't quite sure if they were ready to do it. What if the AI starts going off on its own and having conversations that the brand can't control, right? All of these things are what our clients are saying. So we decided, as a case study for ourselves, we would start creating prototypes. And those prototypes would then lead to an event every year. And for 2 years in a row, we've held Future Experiences, which is a conference that we invite leaders in the industry and our clients and just people who want to come hang out with us to talk about the evolution of what we're doing in this space. Jason Silva was the speaker last year, and Michio Kaku this year was our speaker. And he told a bunch of people who live in Atlanta, Georgia, in the South, that there is no God, and we're all going to be transporting our souls into another space and time dimension. So that was real popular. He was rather funny and very cool. And earlier in the day, another speaker had said that Michio was really frickin' wrong. So that made for a really nice day and dynamic, but it was compelling. And this is a little bit about what that day went like. So what you were seeing is we created an immersive experience with different types of AI technologies and put some interfaces on top of them so that clients could start interacting and getting a feel for what they could do. You could interview Trino, our robot, and he would answer your questions about his resume. He pulled up his LinkedIn page on his screen companion. He took a Snapchat. He Snapchatted with you, or he Instagrammed with you. It was interesting. It was interesting for us to use natural language processing and such to try to create there's no space between the AI and us and really get involved. We did several other things, computer vision, and how clients could start using that in their environments to improve experiences. For the most part, that's all I have to say. I think we're all going to have now a nice little chat about all of this.
I have to present something now. I feel compelled. Thanks. So, I guess I have to wait for this thing for a second?
Yes, for a second.
All right, so I'll just say, my name's Marc. I
love AI.
I love AI. I wish all technology worked as great as AI.
There you
Oh, whoops, back. All right, so I lead technology here at Deutsc. We started getting into AI a couple years ago. We worked on a campaign for Volkswagen where they were launching the new Golf R. And we thought, wouldn't it be great if there was a way that you could, as every kid does when you're playing with cars and you're driving them around and you make the noises of the engine revving and it's screeching and it's braking, if we could create an experience where you could use your own voice to create a custom video that showed the Golf R racing around a racetrack doing exactly the kind of moves that your voice told it to make. And so we put together this website and this campaign around being able to do exactly that. You could record your voice, the car braking and screeching and revving and downshifting, and it would piece together this video for you based upon what you had told it that you wanted it to do. And it really got us to dip our toes for the first time into AI. A couple years later, we worked on a project for Taco Bell. At this point, we were really interested in seeing where AI could take us and how it could really extend our experiences with our clients, give us opportunities to build things that we weren't traditionally building within the technology group. And with Taco Bell, we had recently released and built the new TacoBell.com. It was ta.co. And we realized through research that people going to a website, and I should preface that we added e-commerce to the Taco Bell website, and when people are then going to a website, and traditionally a restaurant is going to have menu items, it's going to talk about what they offer. They're not necessarily going to have e-commerce, especially not a company like Taco Bell, but the website gave users the opportunity to be super users, to order big menu items, to order for a group. And so we thought, okay, cool, we're tapping into something here where people may have menu fright. They don't want to stand in Taco Bell and look at the menu and be like, oh, I think I want this, and I think I want that, because you're scared of all the people behind you going, come on, dude, like, how long is this going to take? But we also realized there's an opportunity for group ordering in a way that is natural and conversational. And so we looked at what are the different ways that we could build this. And at the same time, Slack was just starting to really gain its momentum. It was the fastest growing chat interface and group share interface on the planet at the time. And we thought, what if on Slack, since everyone's communicating, everyone's working together on Slack anyway, what if you could use Slack to order Taco Bell? And this is the case study for that effort.
In 2015, Slack was all the rage.
Slack is trying to change the way you work.
Think of it as having social media,
but with all your colleagues in it. Considered one of the fastest growing business apps in history.
Now, to be clear, Taco Bell didn't invent Slack, and we also didn't invent artificial intelligence. But we did use the heck out of both of them to change the way people order food together forever. Meet TacoBot. A totally new, totally intelligent way for people to order food together on Slack. Just tell TacoBot what you want, or tell TacoBot what you don't want. No clunky buttons or confusing commands necessary. Because we built TacoBot with an artificial intelligence engine, it can talk to everyone at the same time and understands natural language, even slang, and interacts like a real live human. So even though you're communicating with a machine, you don't have to talk like one. Divulge to TacoBot you're a little drunk, and like a good friend, it'll add a cup of water to your order because, well, you're drunk. Ask it to make your order vegetarian if you're into that sort of thing. Or be nosy and ask TacoBot about its dating life. Or its gym habits. In a word, TacoBot e-commerce-ized the top co-working platform on the planet. And it did it in a way that people couldn't stop talking about.
TacoBot.
TacoBot.
The TacoBot.
TacoBot. TacoBot.
TacoBot.
Yeah, TacoBot works with Slack.
No, seriously. TacoBot was almost embarrassed by how much people loved it.
So you're like, yo, TacoBot, I need a quesalupa. The TacoBot is like, totally, let's do this.
Go ahead and say TacoBot again. It's so fun.
Yeah, TacoBot.
So if TacoBot can use artificial intelligence to revolutionize ordering on Slack, and its intelligence is getting smarter by the hour, what will TacoBot be able to do next? Thanks for watching.
So coming out of building TacoBot, obviously it got an enormous amount of press. The PR impressions were through the roof. But we realized also that we were getting into territory where we were now talking about AI and the application of AI in a way that an agency like Deutsc hadn't done before. And in order to, and I think my colleagues here brought it up, when you're working with AI, you have to have the willingness to fail. You have to have the desire and the support from every level in your agency to prototype, to play, to work with code. And a lot of it is changing so rapidly that what you built 2 years ago, for example, that Golf R experience, you would never use that code today at all. And that's okay. It's moving at a rapid pace. And so we also recognize that when we're talking with clients, there needs to be a lens with which we're talking about artificial intelligence. And so we created a division called Great Machine, which is focused on AI and the application of AI, and that includes augmented reality and VR too. And it helps us talk with clients and be able to position what are we talking about with AI, what are we contributing to the AI space, in a way that is logical, and they're able to really understand what we're bringing to the table. And what we're bringing to the table and what we feel is our strongest suit is the storytelling and the creativity. We're not going to create a new AI platform internally. We're not going to build our own neural networks. But we can bring creativity. We can bring the storytelling. We can bring the personality to AI. And I think that's really an opportunity that all agencies have to create something that's truly usable, that's truly easy to interact with. Voice is hard.
Thank you.
And it's up to us, and we are empowered as agencies, as creative agencies, to make it easy for the user and to hide the difficulty the difficulty in actually developing those interfaces. So I think with that we can jump into some question and answer. You know, we in the case studies that we brought up, all of them look at. They all have different applications of artificial intelligence, whether that's through voice interfaces or whether it's through Slack or through robots. At the start of each one of those engagements, though, there is a conversation with a client or there's a conversation with internal stakeholders about what you're trying to build, what you want to accomplish. There's the creativity around it, there's the strategy around it. But how do you help your clients or internal stakeholders understand what we're going to build and how we're going to build it, and not have them fear that it's going to create its own brain and take over the world?
So I'll jump in.
Jump in.
For us, we put technology at the end of the conversation, and we start the conversation with our clients trying to figure out what is the problem you're trying to solve, and really dig into what they want to get out of it. And from there, you slowly back into, okay, here's the right type of technology that meets your needs, and it's going to solve your problem. And so for the example that I gave of Sears Auto, their problem is that every time they show the results for a tire search, they had to go through this debate of what are the tires we're going to show, you know, what's going to be number one, what's going to be number two, number three. And when you started talking to the product people, what they really wanted to say is what's the best tire for the consumer coming in. And through conversations, doing workshops, we found out, hey, ask the consumer, how do they drive? And based off of that, we were saying, using IBM Watson, it would provide the solution for you.
Yeah, for us, it's very much human-centered design. So understand the problem, like what are the pain points, map those out, go through the user journeys, and then what technology best solves that. We kind of do proof of concepting first, which is slightly different than prototyping. With any of this stuff, and I think we've all experienced this, you're going to fail a lot. So you have to have management buy-in to that failure is okay, because nobody actually knows how most of this stuff works until you actually write code. Mm-hmm. So proof of concepting is what could this thing be? Or actually, it's can this thing actually work? like basically, can Watson solve this? Can Alexa solve this? Can Cortana do it? If you fail, that's great. Then you can go back to the client and say, hey, we didn't waste a bunch of your money. This can't be done right now. Let's give it 6 more months. Let's give it a year. We've got some more time. If we get past that, then we go into prototyping. And prototyping goes from, okay, we know this can be built. What could it look like? And at that point, we can take it to the client. And the client can then sign off and say, yeah, let's take this into production. Let's operationalize it. Let's make this scale. Let's make this story become real.
I think I'll add that for us, we lead into the behavioral science lens in the beginning early to really understand what role will AI play in the total solve, and where will human intervention need to happen. What will we allow an AI to do for us? We're very forgiving. I mean, bots can say some crazy things to us, and we're like, oh, that's all right. But let a human say it, and we're like, this is the worst company I've ever worked with, right? So we want to make sure that we solve that first. We want to talk about that first. Where's the line, and where will the forgiveness lens begin and end?
Mm-hmm. We talked about the voice is hard. A lot of what goes into that challenge is the immense amount of data that you need, the immense amount of conversational points that you have to have as part of that interaction. Where do you think agencies play a role in curating, guiding, steering, creating all of that content in a way that you are not only building something that is intuitive and smart from launch, but also continues to get smarter, continues to have more dialogue over time?
So I think one of the things, and a couple of presentations ago we saw slides on this, like 1956, that's when AI was founded as a discipline. A lot of people, like one of the things we have to talk to clients about natural language interfaces is the difference between an open domain chatbot and closed domain. Open domain being something that we can't do right now because that's kind of strong AI, whereas closed domain is, somebody comes to your banking site, somebody comes to your skill, somebody comes to that. They're looking for like 5 or 10 things to do. We've kind of solved this problem, and I think the industry is we're going to start to see this happen more and more. A lot of this is very much game design. Like user experience design and game design are starting to kind of converge as we get these more immersive interfaces. So the way we look at it is, the best games make you think you can do anything, but there's really only 5 things that you can do. So that's kind of a lens that we put when we're designing these experiences to push users forward to make them think that, hey, I can ask Chase Bank for the weather, but would they really do that? Probably not. So getting people to guide those like specific user journeys that actually solve their problems, that's kind of how we look at it.
I think from our standpoint, it really comes down to the brand and what is the context of the brand in that conversation, and from there, providing the right amount of content to have the conversation within the bot, for example, but then also to provide those natural off-ramps to where you have to have a human come in and take part of that conversation and handle it from there. We see that a lot with healthcare and some of the things that we work with within healthcare. The bot can do a certain amount of things, but at a certain point, the conversation changes where you start getting, personal information into the conversation, and you have to take that off-ramp to get them out of the bot conversation and talk to a human.
I'll lean into the side of the question that's, where should we sit as agencies in the data space? I think that we should lean in a little bit more in how do we use AI to generate its own data set, and not just start relying on, where's this wonderful piece of grand data that we're going to find? It's going to unlock the key to everything. I think that's where we've leaned in a lot to put an interface in front of AI and start indexing our own content that we're generating every day through our creative practice, and start learning off of it, and then allowing it to become a data source for perhaps other clients.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think as voice interfaces start to become more intuitive, smarter over time, it's great because you're building, of course, these very robust interfaces that feel very natural. You're having real conversations. I think, Paul, to your point about jumping off to a real person, we're also seeing now where we're seeing chatbots in particular are so good that you don't always know that you're talking with a chatbot. And for some brands, that could be off-putting when the consumer discovers, oh wait, I wasn't talking to a human this whole time. Maybe I was divulging information that I wouldn't have otherwise divulged, or maybe I was just, I don't want to feel like I'm in the call center right now. How do we as agencies help also our brands create these great intuitive interfaces that are smart, that they reflect the brand, they speak from the brand voice, but we're also letting them know you're talking to a robot here. So know that going in, and don't feel duped that we hand you off to a real person sometime down the road, or you come to a dead end and you feel like, wait a minute, what just happened?
Right, and our recommendation to our clients is always to be upfront and to say, look, you are talking to this bot. I'm here to help you. Here's what I can do, and just be upfront with it and be transparent. But also, throughout that journey, understand that most of the times people are at the website because they don't want to necessarily talk to a human. They want to self-service themselves, and the bot actually fulfills that self-service aspect where they don't have to work with a human.
Usually I tell my clients, don't name it in a human-like name. Don't call it Tracy. Let's go talk to Tracy, right? That right from the start leads you to believe that Tracy comes up and now you're talking to a human. So I usually take them down a different path so that we have the opportunity to cut in with a real human when we need to.
Mm-hmm. The research we've done actually shows that people are much more forgiving when they know it's a bot. Right. If you try to pretend to be a human and then you type in something because you think that you can answer any question and it says, I don't know, then people are very off-put by that. Right. If you say straight up that I'm still learning, I'm a bot, then people are like, that's fine. They're totally fine with that. So, be upfront and honest that you're talking to a bot, because that's what you're doing. If you try to hide it, then you're not being honest as a brand.
Right. When we're talking about the interfaces themselves, of course, that's growing by leaps and bounds. There's the voice-enabled device war between Google Home and Amazon Echo, and just even from the platforms themselves, Google Assistant to Siri and everything in between. How are you talking with clients about where they should be building their AI interface, and how are you evaluating why this one interface makes more sense than the other, whether that's technically, strategically, or somewhere in between?
We start by telling our client, you need to explore, and you need to be a pioneer. So whether you choose Google Home or Amazon, it doesn't really matter right now, because you're a pioneer. You're trying to figure out and test within the space what works. As long as you start small, you can easily move it over to the other platform that you don't choose, but you can take the learnings that you learn from one, apply it to another. But start small, be a pioneer, and then frankly, ultimately, where you want to be is to become a settler, where you can actually conduct business and really improve the lives of those that are using those voice tools.
As a technologist, what we do is we abstract that out, from a purely functional level. Instead of using proprietary tools for each of those services, there are services you can go out there that allow you to plug in. So that gives us the ability, because one week Cortana might be better than Alexa, might be better than Assistant, or that could change the next week. By making it more flexible, we can tie into all of those services at the same time, and as they get better, well, I've got a Google Home, I've got an Echo as well, and we can be on all of it.
And I'm going to feel like a broken record today, but I'll probably start with talking to them about what's a natural behavior for them. Is it in the home? If is the service that I want them to do with this brand something that they would naturally want to do in the home, and so the Echo would be a responsible thing to tell them in the direction? Or is this something that they kind of want a private moment, and so chat might be the space in which they are a bit more closed off and not just talking in the middle of a room? So I'm going to say behavior probably every single answer, so I'm sorry. But that's kind of where we do start most of our processes from.
Moving a little bit away from chatbots, and chatbots, of course, it's or even voice-enabled interfaces. That's kind of the big entry point right now. And 5 years from now, we might look at it as the Netscape navigator of artificial intelligence. But when we lean into machine learning, and right now it's largely operational enhancements, improvements, automation within really the back of the house. Where can agencies start to take advantage? And Tracy, you talked about how you're making the voice interface or that data, making it stronger and helping build that. And that's employing a lot of machine learning to be able to do that. But beyond that, where do we see agencies moving into the machine learning space and creating brand experiences using machine learning beyond chatbots?
Well, we're playing a lot with tying computer vision, natural language, and machine learning to start identifying you in the retail environment, and then being able to connect your identity, right? So identify who you are, your identity, whether you're a customer or not, and then present you with the retail experience within a very personalized retail experience within a retail environment. So I think places like that are where we're looking to play in, as well as how do we tool the agency to use AI in their day-to-day. How do people outside of just the analysts and the data geeks get to use machine learning to improve what they're doing in their creation, if you will?
I would say that the role for the agency, from a leadership standpoint, is to inspire curiosity, inspire people to anticipate what their clients need, and then from there have the technologists, have the creative people that are going to be able to take those curious people and really come up with products that help deliver value for your clients.
So 2 ways. We've got a marketing science discipline, data geeks, that they use it a lot for understanding like large reams of data from these giant global websites that we control the platforms for. So that helps optimize multivariate and A/B testing and all of those sorts of things. That's a lot at the back of the house. More recently, I can't get into too much of it, but we've been using some machine learning with computer vision to optimize a virtual experience, to understand how people actually interact with it, down to like gestural interfaces. So we're finding that there are other like niche areas that machine learning can help hyper optimize things by applying that sort of tactic.
I want to make sure we have about 7 minutes left. I wanted to give the audience a potential opportunity to ask some questions. I have a couple other questions I could dive into, but does anybody have any questions that they want to ask? Okay. Oh, there we go.
Okay, there's one in the front.
Do you believe that through your innovation, the PR component after you've gone to market with this innovation component plays a major do you guys believe that part of your story is that innovation story that you had, for example, with Taco Bell? Mm-hmm. You have all that PR onslaught that goes right after that is something that's helping clients say yes to some of these projects that we're all working towards?
Yeah, I think you have to have a case study first.
Yeah.
One of the challenges too, when you're talking with clients and you're talking about artificial intelligence, it's difficult to explain in succinct terms what it can do, what it can't do, how it should be applied, why it makes sense. So having those case studies are great for 2 reasons. Of course, the PR is always a positive, but it's also a great way to look at something and say, here's what we built, here's how we built it, so that they have an immediate understanding of what's available and what we're capable of doing for them. And it also helps us have a case study internally to say, here are some of the things that next time we would approach it differently. And we would look at either from a back-end development standpoint, how would we change the way that we developed it in order to make it learn more efficiently over time, or address different needs that we didn't anticipate when we originally built it. But it also helps us then create a more dynamic story when we're pitching and we're talking with clients about ideas of here's some of the learnings and here's some of the benefit that you're going to get out of that because of those learnings.
Yeah, definitely the PR side is critical to announce what your agency's doing, but also the case studies are incredibly important. And the biggest thing we run into is having to explain that you need data in order to build these things, and two, you have to train these things. And people, it takes a little bit of time to get your head around that, especially for a client that hasn't done anything like this before, to really understand why do you need to train this machine. And the case studies help out with that quite a bit.
And also, this is not one of those things where you can fake it till you make it. To build off of the data and the training, okay, here's a bunch of data. Go away for a month, and here's your $10,000 bill on AWS because you've been using these instances with all of these GPUs. Clients need to understand that, but at the end of the day, yeah, the case study is that PR is critically important. You have to build it, you have to make it, you have to fail, you have to get up and you have to try again, and then you get the awesome thing that makes your client proud.
They said it.
Any other questions?
There's one in the back.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about kind of implied the B2C aspect of this. So as agencies, have you enlisted the intersection of creativity and AI for your clients, which of course are people, not businesses, B2B. But, so have you used it in any way to really think more creatively and use artificial intelligence to serve and understand and innovate with your clients?
We have. I alluded to it a second ago, which is when creating a way for our clients to now understand all the content that they've put into market, and for it, the AI is now showing them why it worked, what's best about it, what should they be doing next. So that's one way, and for content improvement, marketing improvement, that we're seeing works with clients from both the B2B and B2C, which is, again, most of us probably concentrate on B2C, and I think that aspect is interesting, particularly with another application is with a sales force, a distributed sales force. We're seeing that AI, the use of AI in managing and understanding, again, the content that they have, how the teams are using it, and distributing and improving through the use of AI has been helpful. So probably two applications to that.
Yeah, one of our clients actually built a machine learning platform. And they're strictly B2B. So we have to tell their stories. We have to understand their technology at a very granular level to help build the marketing material, then also build their own case studies of how do you apply this platform that uses AI to do business transformation stuff. So yeah, we do.
We do it as well. We had one client that they had a problem with bugs were consuming the leaves of their agricultural crop. And so building a machine learning application, we were able to allow the farmers in the field to take pictures of the leaves and to detect what is the bug that was consuming those leaves, but also to detect if they're good bugs. And then that helps them understand what's the right remedy to apply. And so it's things like that that are really fun because, especially in the B2B side, B2B is a huge opportunity because there's so many, I'll say, microtransactions that occur right now that are really labor intensive. But if you just have conversations with people, you can shortcut and improve those employees' lives because they don't have to spend so much time solving a manual task, and you can use the technology to accelerate it.
I think for us too, even when we're working on a B2C project, there can be some neat B2B opportunities. So with one of our clients, we're working on a project that will ultimately be a consumer-facing experience. But in order to get there, we're working with them internally to change how they manage data, how they organize data, and automating some of that process and adding machine learning to it so that it can then empower this consumer-facing experience and really make it not only intuitive and smart, but something that's industrialized that can last over time. Yeah. Because too, it's also critical if we're building something that requires a large corpus of data, We need to make sure that they are set up for success, that they can maintain that data, that they can keep enriching that data, and that they're not having to hire people to be manually typing that all in and managing it at a very granular level. I think we have time, well, yeah, maybe one more?
One more.
Human beings have a great affinity for mischief, and I wondered if in any of your examples that you shared with us today, you encountered the great joy we get from causing mischief, especially amongst our robot overlords, and how you dealt with that.
I think every time that we have shown a client something that we've been prototyping, or even I was sharing TacoBot with another one of our clients, and I had it on my mobile phone, and he picked it up, and immediately he's trying to break it. He's immediately asking the most obscure, questionable questions to try and break it. And of course, that they feel empowered, like, look, see, you gave me the wrong response. But that's, I think, part of the joy, and that's, I think, part of the engagement. I also think that's an opportunity for agencies to bring the creativity to the experience. If you can make that fun, and you can make that sound like the brand, like, yes, you hit a dead end, or yes, you broke it, but you broke it in a way that everyone looks at it as it's funny, it's entertaining, it was broken the way I kind of expected it to break, then that creates an engaging experience, even though you broke it.
Well, I mean, we have that in, we have that in the web, with the 404 page, right? You used to get a white 404 page that just said 404. And then you started seeing people have, fun, engaging 404 error messages. And that's the brand, and that's the creativity that goes into it.
When we did the, interview Trino for a job, there were moments when the mischievous humans would ask more personal questions. And we programmed him to turn on a red light. And made the light go a little darker and a little red to say, maybe this isn't exactly the place to have that conversation. So, yes, humans try to trip up the AI, but we have to be a little bit smarter when we're programming them.
Well, thank you very much, everybody, for your attention. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.